Hey guys, what's up? You guys requested new Game of Thrones, so we got some new backstory on the original fate of Stannis that George R. R. Martin intended that completely changes his character from what we saw in the TV show. Careful for spoilers for everything that's happened on the show so far, and if you're new to the channel, I do Game of Thrones every week. Be sure to subscribe to get it. Please leave all your video requests in the comments below. The more suggestions that you guys give me for videos, the better our discussions are. So I know we got a lot of Stannis fans out there who felt like he got a bad shake on the TV show. There's some big dramatic changes from his book plot, so I'll do a quick recap of where he's at in the books. Because as much as it sucks that he's dead right now, he's still alive and they're ramping up for their version of Battle of the Bastards, or at least the first Battle of Winterfell. The TV show accelerated his plotline immensely up to the end of Season 5. So what's happened is that Stannis, listening to Melisandre, takes his forces to the wall. He sort of has most of those scenes that he has with Jon Snow up there where they argue over what to do with the wildlings. Then eventually, he decides to take his armies south to deal with the Boltons because they're still occupying Winterfell. So with the aid of the Golden Company that we saw towards the end of Season 4, Stannis gets the aid of the Iron Bank to hire the Golden Company because the Iron Throne has ceased their payments. They're defaulting on their debt to the Iron Bank. So the Iron Bank is turning around and supporting someone else's claim for the Iron Throne. So what he does is he marches south from the Golden Company with his forces trying to collect more men. He gets about an additional 3,000 men preparing for a battle with the Boltons. So he gets help from the Mountain Clans, he gets help from the Glovers, the Mormonts, the Free Folk, House Hornwood, House Carwyn, House Tallheart. They all join Stannis just as, if you remember on the TV show, Sansa and Reek jump off the battlements. Well, in the books, that's Jane Poole, Sansa's friend, that they're masquerading as Arya Stark as a front for the houses of the North so that they'll support the Boltons' claim on Winterfell. So Stannis is trying to gather the support of the North the same way that Jon Snow and Sansa did during Season 6. So the entire Jon Snow plot between Episode 3 and Episode 9 of Season 6 is basically Stannis stuff leading up into Winds of Winter. So if you're really upset that that got cut, blame Jon Snow, but it's really not his fault. He doesn't know anything. This is all in the name of the TV show. So they're preparing for this giant battle against the Boltons. We know what happened on the TV show is that the Boltons led a small raiding party. Ramsay cut down Stannis' forces. Some of them deserted, some of them died. So he was marching into what was certain death. That was mostly to put him between a rock and a burning place when it came to Shireen and Melisandre's sacrifice to the Red God. And as unforgivable as it is, if you're wondering why it had to be Shireen, why it couldn't be Selyse, one is royal blood flowing from Stannis, and Selyse did not. But two, there's this really cool quote from Davos. It says, "The Lord of Light cherishes the innocent. There is no sacrifice more precious." So it's talking about the leeches incident that they did with Gendry. So just another change from the books, but that's why Melisandre gets really excited when she's asking Jon Snow if he's a virgin. So it's like, you have royal blood in you? Are you a virgin? You have the best blood of all. So that was intended to grant them the boon that would allow them to win the battle, but that was all predicated on the idea that Melisandre believed Stannis was the person in her visions, the one who was promised, which she misread. Martin had a really interesting way of addressing that in the books through Maester Aemon's character, who just feels like Melisandre is completely misreading her visions, just completely off base, but on the TV show they didn't have that many interactions between the two of them. Come to the end of Season 5, you know how it all went down for Stannis. He had this small force going up against vastly superior numbers of the Boltons, so there was no way he was going to walk out of that. Eventually, after hobbling away from the battlefield, he took down a couple more soldiers. They gave him a bit of a badass ending, like he took them down pretty quickly. But then up walks Brienne, who had been waiting for Sansa. So here's where we get to this moment that completely changes Stannis' TV character, and you can let me know if you agree with the way they did it on the TV show versus the way they originally intended it, which was a little more book accurate. In the original version of this scene, they wrote a bunch of extra dialogue that humanizes Stannis' character. So Brienne walks up and says, "Do you have any last words?" Stannis considers. He says, "Do you believe in the life to come?" And Brienne nods, yes. He replies, "I don't, but if I'm wrong and you're right, tell Renly I'm sorry when you get there. I don't imagine I'll see him wherever I'm going." He takes a beat and then says, "My daughter, tell her," and he sort of trails off. The script notes read, "Sorry doesn't begin to cover what he feels about Shireen. The thought of it brings tears to his eyes, and he's not going to die weeping in front of a woman he doesn't know." He doesn't know Brienne. So Stannis stares up at her and says, "Go on, do your duty." And Brienne nods, raises her sword, and brings it down with a mighty swing. Think about that extra dialogue and how they highlight what's going on inside his head, how he feels about it, and then watch the scene as it ended up on TV, vastly cut down. I just shortened this a little bit.
Bolton has women fighting for him.
I don't fight for the Boltons. I'm Brienne of Tarth. I was Kingsguard to Renly Baratheon. I was there when he was murdered by a shadow with your face. You murdered him? With blood magic?
I did.
In the name of Renly of House Baratheon, first of his name, rightful king of the Andals and the First Men, lord of the Seven Kingdoms and protector of the realm, I, Brienne of Tarth, sentence you to die. Do you have any last words?
Go and do your duty.
How much does it blow your mind that Stannis is regretful and does not believe in an afterlife? He supposedly worships the Red God, so he should believe in a higher power. Maybe something will be waiting for him after, but it sounds like he's given that all up. Like, for all his stoicism, his stubbornness, and his belief in the importance of doing your duty, he's having this existential crisis as Brienne walks up and ends him in revenge for Renly. So let me know how you feel about them cutting all that dialogue off of the page. It humanizes him a lot more. There were all those scenes leading up between Season 4, Season 5, where he's talking to Shireen about how she's his daughter, you belong with me. He seemed like a very caring father for a very brief period, but, come to the end of Season 5, and it seems like they threw that completely under the rug. But again, you can blame a lot of these Stannis edits in the name of Jon Snow, Kit Harington on the TV show, because they basically gave all of his plot from the last couple of books to Jon Snow so that they can just rush that plot along. He gets to be the person to unite the North, not Stannis, so you don't have another person going into Season 7 who still has a claim to the throne and has won this big victory. If you're really upset about the TV show changes, don't worry. Winds of Winter will allow this to all play out, so you'll get to see what happens to Stannis as Martin intended it. But you can see how Dan and Dave, working off a lot of notes from George R. R. Martin, were trying to take things in the same direction with some big edits where necessary for characters that they hadn't already done, or just time that they didn't have to spend with characters on big storylines, like all the stuff that was happening up at the Wall and the stuff that was happening down near Winterfell. Let me know in the comments too if you like me doing videos about big changes from the books and how they change characters in massive ways. Like, you think characters a certain way, but you find out about a couple lines of dialogue that make them seem like completely different people than what you're seeing on screen. So sometimes it can be really interesting. And then you have characters like Arianne Martell, John Connington that are just completely cut out. So once we get closer to Winds of Winter being released, we can do some more book videos, but a lot of it just depends on what you guys are most interested in talking about. So that'll be happening later this year. Remember, Game of Thrones is going to be happening all summer. The book might not be released till this winter or even early next year, but I will be sure to add book updates when we get them. There'll probably be some more Game of Thrones footage that'll drop in the next month or two, and I got a chance to see the Game of Thrones live concert with Ramin Djawadi. I'm mispronouncing his name, but he's an amazing composer. It was this huge live show, so if you ever have the chance to see it, they're still on tour, definitely try to go. But a lot of you have been asking for a Varys video, so I might do a Varys Targaryen Restoration Season 7 video in the next week. If there's any other Game of Thrones stuff that you guys want me to do, just let me know in the comments. While you wait for that to post, you can click here for that Season 7 teaser trailer, and you can click here to learn about all the stuff they tease for Season 7 at the South by Southwest panel. Thank you so much for watching. Let's high five. I'll see you guys in the next video.